Happy New Year's again. Hope you guys are having a great start to your year. And let's hope that our football club has a great start to this new year as we officially enter the dreaded second half of this season. Now, this same time last year was the kickstart of our new form, improvements, and a lot of positives. Can we end 2025 better than how we ended 2024? Time will tell, but to get there, getting results against our whipping boys, and I'm sounding very disrespectful considering our recent slump in form, but historically, we've been having a great time against Crystal Palace. In the last 12 games, Palace have only picked up 1 point. In our last 6 games at Selhurst Park, we've won all 6 games, and last season we saw that in a 3-1 win with goals coming courtesy of Gallagher and Enzo Fernandez. Now let's talk our opponents in Crystal Palace. This season, they've had things pretty difficult, and they've definitely felt that loss of Michael Olise. Him alongside Eze, Mateta form one of 2024's best attacking trios. So when you lose out on a talent like that, that's going to impact the rest of the team. But even though Palace's season has been a bit indifferent, they're now starting to make sense of things right now. In their last few games, they picked up credible draws against Man City and high-flying Bournemouth. They've only picked up 2 defeats recently against Arsenal, but they picked up pretty good wins against Southampton and against their rivals in Brighton. So we must be ready. We can't take our recent great form against them for granted. And I think there are 3 players in particular we need to watch out for. One player is high-flying wingback Munoz, who I think has been one of the most impressive defenders this season in the Premier League. Now that he has a license to really attack, you see how aggressive he is on the ball, aggressive he is defending, and he will give a very difficult game against any winger alongside him tomorrow. So we need to be careful about him. Alongside that, I'm looking at Lacroix. Of course, once upon a time, we were linked with him when Tuchel was our manager, but Lacroix is now showing that he might have that potential to play at a higher level. Front-footed defender, great reading of the game, and pretty decent on the ball. We need to watch out for him, and of course, notably, we can't forget the big striker up front in Mateta, where even though his goal scoring hasn't hit the same heights, he is still one of the most difficult strikers in the Premier League for most defenders to cope against. He excels when it comes to playing man v man against defenders. He's got good pace in behind, he's a strong first-time finisher, and he's very good aerially, so he'll give us a massive test tomorrow. And you think to yourselves, we can control these 3 players, Munoz, Lacroix, and Mateta, we have a great chance of winning this game tomorrow. But for us now, we want to see a reaction. And I think most notably, we want to see a reaction from Enzo Maresca, even more than the players. Now, in our recent slump, has this shown maybe the lack of experience in Enzo Maresca, or the lack of experience he still has within this very young squad that he's still making sense of? Maybe it's a combination of everything together. But in our recent struggles, we've seen some things that just don't work. And they are having wide centre-backs out wides who can't play there. Seeing our wingers getting isolated, allowing teams to double up on them. We're noticing that Palmer is losing connections, playing with his teammates between the lines. And we've noticed that Maresca's been reluctant to rotate, or he's over-rotated at the wrong times. Naturally, teams respect us now. They're going to come with different approaches. I've been talking about this for a long time. The second half of this season is a completely different kettle of fish. We'll be playing against teams now using a low to mid block, looking to go man v man against our attack at the back. So right now, this is the serious point of the season. We're going to learn even more from the players, but most notably, we're going to learn a lot more about Maresca and his qualities. So today's preview, you know what to expect. Team news, press conference review, and my predicted lineup. So I hope you guys enjoy the video today. Show some love for the first match preview of 2025. Let's go over 1,500 likes. Sit back, relax, and let's get straight into things. Let's turn our attentions to team news. Now, we start with the positive, and that is that Reece James now is fit enough to at least get some minutes tomorrow against Crystal Palace. This reintroduction comes at the best time because we need that wide centre-back down that right-hand side. But outside of that, expect Gusto to be back in the lineup. But in terms of injuries and omissions, there's still big doubts around Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, or should I say Hoosbury-Hall, who's never really in the team this season. He's got a bit of an illness. Doubts around Chukwuemeka, who may be featured in the squad tomorrow, but don't expect to see Romeo Lavia, who is getting close now, but of course still needs a little bit more time. But outside of that, of course, usual suspects. Mudryk, of course, still provisionally suspended. Hopefully we get clarity on this pretty soon. Benoit is set to return back in February, but Wesley Fofana may not be returning back at all this entire season, and that is really devastating news, because even though he had some mistakes in him, I would say in general he was very good down that right side, very strong, and it's a big loss to lose out on someone of his abilities. And I feel sorry for Wesley on a human level, because you've got 2 serious injuries that keep you out for the whole season, and now you have a serious hamstring injury. It's been confirmed to be a hamstring one, which will keep you out for another season. Yeah, it's really hard, I can imagine, for him right now. Hopefully he gets the support, and fingers crossed this guy is able to, God willing, find some fitness again, because he's got too much talent for injuries to be killing his career right now. So that's the team news out the way. And now we move on to the key talking points from the press conference. And actually, I'm going to continue on with Wesley Fofana, because it did seem like Maresca was definitely mourning the loss of the defender. He gave this anecdote, giving an example of him man-marking Ollie Watkins in our win against Aston Villa. Wesley gives you that ability to go 1v1 and maintain the structure, right? He mentioned the point that Benoit was offering this to before he got injured, but obviously he's out now for the entirety of the season. It's a big loss, it's a big shame, and I think this night solidifies the fact that even Maresca knows the importance of having a well-suited player down that right side. Because if I was to sum up our system under Maresca in one word, I'd say it's overloads. It's all about numerical superiority against the opposition. But to do that properly, the wide centre-backs have to be involved to form those triangles. I've been saying this religiously throughout the season, and the clearest example we first saw of this was that game against West Ham, where we struggled in the first half to play through them. It wasn't until we had a wide centre-back pushing further forwards that we started to show our dominance and get the result in the end. So yeah, big loss for him, but it does seem like we are hoping to cope with this loss by the big news around Anselmino. As we all know, Anselmino has been officially recalled and is set to remain here. He won't be going out on loan in January. Maresca revealed that he is a good talent. Does this mean that he's also been keeping an eye on his development back in Argentina? Potentially, because on paper, Anselmino suits the team. I'm going to be releasing an analysis video on him today, so stay tuned for that, my friends. But to go on, Maresca revealed that, but to continue, Maresca spoke about the facts, and those facts are, Anselmino is young. He's coming to a new country, a new environment, new teammates, new everything right now. To expect him to instantly just kick balls straight away and play levels, that is just a bit silly. So don't expect Anselmino to be playing at all tomorrow. But fingers crossed we see him taking part against Morecambe next week in the FA Cup. Hopefully he gets that moment to show what he can do. And we end things by discussing the future. Now naturally, with our recent form slump, where we find ourselves 4th in the table and like 4 points behind Arsenal, has negativity hit the squad? Is morale down right now? Maresca revealed, no. Of course, these guys are never happy not to win, but morale is not down at all right now. The second half of the season is only now beginning, and you have to remember we started our journey 5-6 months ago. We're still relatively new, so there's still a lot of positives for the future. Of course, there is going to be ambitions around Champions League football, but Maresca won't just say outright in the press conference, listen, we are securing it. I think for his first season, he won't be talking this talk. I think from next season though, once he's had his first year with us, you're going to see Maresca talking with more authority and more assertiveness about what we can do in the future. So keep your eyes out for that. But in the meantime, he reveals yet again that when he was hired by the club, there were no guarantees to secure Champions League football. Yeah, we've heard that all before. We need to get CL football this season. In terms of the future and our ambitions, he doesn't like to think about the future. If anything, his focus is on the present And that makes a lot of sense because your future is unknown unless you take control of what you're doing in the present. So if you guys are hearing this right now, the new year's starting, if you still need New Year's resolutions, keep this in the back of your heads, yeah? But regardless, my friends, I think that's pretty much all the interesting points in the press conference, which now allows us now to tackle the predicted lineup tomorrow. And as you guys can see, I've gone for Nico up front. To support him, I've gone for Neto down the left side. I've gone for Palmer Midweke. I've gone for Enzo and Moises. Defense of Cuckoo, Kobo, Tosin, and Malo Gusto with Sanchez in goal. Yeah, I'm going to break it down. The thing I want you guys to realize is that now teams are approaching us with a mid-block setup and low block setup. And this is like the same approach we saw when Thomas Tuchel was our manager. This is not the first time we've come up against this style of opponent. But obviously, with our propensity now to overload teams in the final third, we're now seeing more teams now reverting back to using a back five. Crystal Palace use a wing-back system. So that for sure tells you about how they're going to set themselves up off the ball in terms of their structure, how they press, but how they keep their shape and disrupt our games. So for me, if we want to get a result tomorrow, we have to be aggressive. That's the only way you can go for things. And I've never understood why managers sometimes, when things are going against them, they don't move aggressively, because if you have at least a lead or something to protect, that's when I want to see your management coming in to control the game and help us see things out to get a result. So I'm giving this long-winded answer because I need to see an offensive attacking lineup. I've gone for Neto down the left-hand side because I feel like I've loved the balance I see from Neto, and see it like this: when Cucurella played the recent game against Fulham, making the overlaps out wide, a lot of times he was forced to play it back inside, right? With Neto, would he have to do that? Because Neto can take you straight to the byline. Neto can take his crosses early. He can cross with either foot. And I just feel like for right now, where we are against this type of tactical setup, we need to have that type of winger that can go both ways and offer a little bit more, because yeah, we can't be passing back inside 24/7 because we'll get no results. So I'd rather have Neto there with Enzo Fernandez having the license to make the third man runs again down the left-hand side, and Cucurella playing a more supportive role, sometimes offering support out wide for Neto, but mostly tucking inside so Enzo Fernandez can do what he was doing best during that amazing 6 runner games where he got like 10 goals and assists. Listen, he's still been good. He's still been one of our best outfield players. But I want to see Enzo having that license to get inside the box again, and we need third man runs, and we've been lacking that recently. So Neto, please, I want to see him on the left hand side. I don't want to see Sancho cutting inside again and us just passing it backwards. So on the other side, it has to be Noni and Cole Palmer. I want to see their combination again because they have a strong understanding of each other's games. And recently, they've rarely been playing together. And I feel like sometimes, Maresca, you don't have to overcoach. Let the players shine sometimes, you know what I mean? And naturally up front has to be Nico Jackson because we need someone that can occupy defenses. And Kunku couldn't do that against Fulham, but Nico can with his threat in behind and his ability to withdraw and drop deeper. So the attack is essential for us. Obviously, Moises speaks for himself. I'd say his last game against Fulham was probably his poorest game this season, which shows you the high standards he's been playing with. But in defense, of course, it has to be Cuckoo, Kobo, Tosin, and Malo Gusto. Malo Gusto is going to be key. Gusto is not an inverted fullback. I think by the time he masters that role, it would just be redundant because he would have found it so difficult just to get there that it wouldn't be helping the team. But his introduction down that right, just overlapping, underlapping at times, giving us like strong-footed players to play out from the back with, that balance is so key. And honestly, if we had him at the start of the Fulham game, if it was possible, I think the result could have been a bit different because he won't be sitting back, because he ain't afraid to go man v man and tight against any winger or any attacking player. We saw that last season. We saw how great he was defensively and how proactive he is, and you need that. So this is the lineup I have to see tomorrow. I need to see a team that was going back to what we were doing best before this little annoying slump in form, because the quality is still there, and I think tomorrow against Crystal Palace can really rejuvenate us and hopefully get us ready to kickstart this year. So my friends, I'm going to end things right now with my prediction, and I'm going to be going for a 3-1 win. I do feel like a little bit of rest now is going to help. Players are back in form too. And maybe I'm being too naive, but I am feeling a bit optimistic that Maresca is going to come correct tomorrow and that he isn't going to respect Fulham too much, because I'd love to think that he's seen this game a million times before. We all have as fans, and we know how often we've struggled. But when you're going to kind of like shackle the team a little bit and not let them do what they were doing best, you're going to ask for problems that you never needed to have. So yeah, hopefully we get things right. I wouldn't be surprised to see a late goal or for Nico to score, because he does love playing against London clubs. So my friends, that is everything today. Hope you guys enjoy. Hit that like button, show us some love, and I'll catch you guys later on with some more videos, and see you tomorrow on match day. Cool.